Chinese President Xi Jinping has arrived in Serbia on the second leg of his European tour. He was earlier in France, and the next country he will be visiting is Hungary. This is Xi's first trip to Europe since 2019. And to talk more on Xi's Europe tour, we're now being joined by Ambassador Volker Stanzel. He's the German envoy to China and Japan, and he is joining us live from Berlin. Thank you so much for taking our time and being here with us, Ambassador Stanzel.
Thanks for having me.
Right, Ambassador Stanzel, this trip of the Chinese President Xi Jinping comes after 5 years. Earlier, he visited Europe, was in 2019. From the Chinese point of view, what are some of the aims or the targets that will perhaps make this trip by the Chinese president a successful one?
It's an important visit indeed, and it's not just because so much time has passed since he's been to Europe, but because of the overall situation, mainly economic, I would say, but political as well. I would say what he's pursuing is a kind of, one might call it a multi-directional diplomacy. You know, he has a number of partners in Europe, important partners. The German Chancellor visited Xi Jinping just last month, and he tries to pursue different objectives with each of them. So, as you said, he was in France first. And now France is a particularly interesting case because, on the one hand, there is the great ambition by President Macron to improve economic relations with China. France would like to benefit as much as Germany does from the Chinese market. And this is very difficult at a moment when the European Commission tries to pursue the suspicion that China is doing overcapacity production and an export drive of an enormous size into Europe, which the European Commission wants to prevent. But what does that leave for France? Not very much. Think of the gesture with which Xi Jinping came to President Macron, announcing that now there would be no inhibitions for French cognac producers to sell their cognac to China as much as they did in the past. This is maybe a bad joke.
Right, Ambassador Stanzel, just to follow up on that, do you see this, the trip's main focus so as to counter US pressures and forge greater cooperation with Europe?
Well, look, in the situation that we're in, the Ukraine war presently, with France announcing they will have nuclear arms maneuvers near the Ukrainian border, when the cyber war is pursued against a number of European countries, which increases insecurity in Europe. It is impossible for European countries to accept any kind of division between Europe and the United States. That might change with future President Trump, but presently any Chinese effort to drive a wedge between Europeans and Americans will not be successful. What is much more promising for Xi Jinping, I think, is to try to, let's say, divide and rule, drive wedges between European countries. So there's the division between France and Germany that I just mentioned. When German Chancellor Scholz went to Beijing last month, he returned with promises that were sizable, agreements being signed. And this, of course, against the backdrop of successful German business engagement in China, which France would also like to have, but cannot. Now he's going to Hungary and to Serbia. Now, Serbia is not a member of the European Union. It's not a member of NATO either. So it has tried for a long time to balance its relationship with the European Union with its relationship with Russia. But now with the war going on, that is not very successful and very promising. So President Vučić of Serbia bets on his relationship with China. And I mean, he's famous for having once kissed the Chinese flag as a symbol of his enthusiasm for improving relations. And this is, I think, that Xi Jinping will want to bet on, and similarly later on in Hungary.
Right, Ambassador Stanzel, talking about China's relations with the countries worldwide, China has a very strong foothold and ties with the countries in West Asia. So why is China not doing enough to stop the wars in Ukraine and in Gaza?
Yes, that indeed is a puzzle. And I think we might find an explanation in the fact that China just does not have a tradition in trying to mediate really diplomatically in severe conflicts. It hasn't done so in the past. That just was not China's policy. But now, with China being a world power and trying to be a world power, it finds itself confronted with the challenge that its allies, its friends, ask it to help to mediate in situations such as the present two wars that are going on, the Gaza war and the Ukraine war. But there is just no tradition there in Chinese diplomacy. It is something that China will have to learn. And I think the demands from China's partners in the international community will increase, and there will be more. And China at one point will find itself in a situation where it will have to try to mediate. Whether it will be successful, that is a completely different question.
Right. My last question to Ambassador Stancil. How do you see this trip change dynamics or perhaps ties between the European Union, US and China?
I think, as I said before, as in the field of security and political relations, there will be no changes between the Europeans and the Americans in their relationship as a result of that trip by Xi Jinping. So there will not be a major difference. Economically, whatever Xi will try to succeed in with Hungary or Serbia will not affect the relationship with the United States either. The major impact of that visit we will have to see inside Europe. Will there be greater frictions between France and Germany about their relationship with China? Will there be frictions between the European Commission and countries such as Hungary or others maybe that would like to benefit from Chinese investments? So what we have to watch is the internal situation inside Europe as a result of Xi Jinping's visit.
Right, Ambassador Stancil, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on WION with your insights.
You're welcome. Thank you.